Our top story tonight, an Eyewitness News exclusive. The man wrongly suspected in the rape and murder of a DuPage County teenager breaks his silence about an investigation that he says forever changed his life.
And all of this coming, as we mentioned earlier, just one day after the teen's killer was actually sentenced to more than 30 years after that murder occurred. Eyewitness News reporter John Garcia now reporting live from Wheaton with this exclusive interview. John?
Alan, Dana Henry says he never met the victim, Kristy Wesselman, but her murder, he says, changed his life forever after he was named as the primary suspect. He says no one ever wanted to hear his story until now. Dana Henry goes through stacks of court filings and newspaper stories that are a constant reminder of what he says was the darkest period of his life, when he was considered the prime suspect in the brutal rape and murder of 15-year-old Kristy Wesselman of Glen Ellen in 1985. Though he was never charged with the crime and, in fact, had never even met the victim, Henry says he's never been the same since.
I've been a whole nother guy since. I don't like Dana Henry anymore. How weird is that?
At one point, Henry says investigators stripped his clothes off and put him in a jail cell until he agreed to give a blood and saliva sample for DNA testing. He says police never told him why he was a suspect. His mother's backyard was about 100 yards from where Wesselman's body was discovered.
They never read me my rights, so I guess that means I don't have any.
He says he spent about $50,000 on lawyers and ended up losing his house. He now lives in LaSalle County and says the cloud of suspicion has cost him relationships with friends and even family.
Tore his whole life apart. You know, first of all, people automatically start thinking, oh, well, if the government or the, county thinks that you're a potential suspect, then, I'm sure he lost a lot of friends, and then the expense of having to go to court and go through everything.
Henry was in court yesterday to see the man who actually committed the crime, 64-year-old Michael Jones, sentenced to 80 years in prison. Henry says he hoped it would bring closure. It did not.
Just a damn shame, that's all.
Henry's a former military police officer who served in West Germany. He says if he had run across the attack as it was happening, he would have been willing to die defending Wesselman. He says he came to court yesterday to express his sympathy to the family.